Daniel Ricciardo was once seen as the next best thing during his times at Red Bull. I'm sure we can all remember his iconic win at Monaco, where he limped his RB14 through the finish line to win the race. But it's been 4 years now since that memorable win, and now Daniel's days racing in F1 may officially be numbered, as no team has definitely said that they're interested in availing themselves of Daniel's services for next season. So what is next for the Honey Badger? Has he come to accept his situation and that the possibility of him not racing next season is a near certainty? And why does a certain F1 legend believe that it's time for Daniel to leave the sport? Well, let's talk about it then. But before we do, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our latest uploads. This past week at Monza, many Danny Ric fans were hoping for the impossible and to have Danny at the very least finish in the podium places, especially with the number of drivers that had to take grid penalties for Sunday's race. But what was supposed to be a mediocre ending with him finally finishing in the points position again ended in disaster, as he would have to retire from the race due to an engine failure by his MCL36. This DNF adds yet another disappointing performance for Daniel, whose performance is closely watched by the likes of Alpine, Williams, and Haas, who are the most likely landing spots for Daniel, since all three have a seat yet to fill for next season. This season, Daniel has only finished within the top 10 4 times, an ugly record to have when you're trying to impress your future bosses. And it isn't like last season was better either, as the Honey Badger only had his win at Monza to show for, with the rest being as ugly as it is this year. This is exactly why Haas team boss Günther Steiner has recently said that the team really isn't fond of the idea of having Daniel drive for them next season. I've talked to most of the potential drivers, which is my job. There's nothing concrete yet, but we only want to take the smallest risks for the development of the team. You can take a big risk, which is great when it works, but it's bad when it doesn't. There are none of those experienced and technical drivers who are currently on the market, except maybe Daniel Ricciardo, but his form isn't great at the moment, and we don't know what he's going to do. Maybe he'll sit out a year. As I said, I talk to everyone. And as for probably the most coveted seat this offseason at Alpine, the team has voiced that they're looking for someone with a bit more experience to take over Fernando Alonso's seat next season. We need to find a driver that's capable of scoring big points right away, said Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi. This basically leads us towards a more senior driver, if you will, but at the same time that is capable to grow with us. So those are the criteria we use at the moment. Otmar Zafnauer is leading the process, seeing all of the drivers, discussing with them, assessing options, assessing them here, potentially assessing them in tests. So I guess it's going to be a process that is going to last a little bit. Now this may sound like Laurent is implying that the team has their eyes set on signing Daniel for next season, but really it doesn't. Here's why. There have been reports since the Piastri fiasco that if Alpine were to lose out on Piastri, that they would offer to buy out Pierre Gasly from AlphaTauri, since the team also has dreams of creating a French lineup, since the team has French origins. On Gasly's side, it would make sense for him to take the deal, since Alpine is undoubtedly better than AlphaTauri at this point, which again doesn't work in Daniel's favor, since he doesn't have any bargaining power at the moment because of his streak of horrible performances. Former F1 champion and legend Jacques Villeneuve would also give his 2 cents regarding the situation, saying, "That's a strange one. They already have a French driver," said Jacques regarding Alpine's desire to have an all-French lineup. "The two, Gasly and Ocon, don't get along, so don't put them together. And he's under contract and you have to move mountains to get him, so it doesn't make sense, and Gasly hasn't had a very good season in general." And then in regards to Daniel not really being a legitimate candidate for the seat Alpine, Jacques would say, "Why should he be? He's done 2 awful years at Renault, 2 even worse years at McLaren, that's 4 years, and how long has he been in F1 total? Almost half his F1 career has been bad, and that's when he's had experience. so there's no reason, especially for a team he's already driven for. It looks like the modern cars don't suit his driving style because he was impressive at Red Bull. He did some amazing overtaking. He was ahead of Max Verstappen, but Max was new to F1, and by the end of the season, Max was starting to get the better of him, and that's when he switched. Something happened in the switch that just didn't work for him, and he hasn't recovered. Jacques would then say that the team shouldn't dilly-dally like they did with Piastri and just give the seat to Jack Doohan and see how the young driver reacts to the pressure. Why not take a chance with Doohan? Instead of spending a year preparing him like they did with Piastri, just put him in the deep end and see what happens, said Jacques. Doohan comes with a good background, like Sainz, that really gets the right mindset to be at the top level and survive under pressure. With all of these factors combined, it is looking like the 2023 season will be the first season we don't see Daniel racing with the pack, a fact that Daniel himself has admitted that he's slowly coming to grips with. I've certainly accepted. If I'm not going to be on the grid next year, I'm okay with that, he said. I've accepted that I'm not going to do everything, or my management team's not going to do everything, just to put me on the grid if it's not right or it doesn't make sense. Obviously, this year's been challenging, and if I am on the grid, I want to know that it's a place that I can enjoy it and feel like I can thrive, an environment I feel I can thrive in. I don't want to just jump into a car for the sake of it. Daniel would then be asked on how he plans to bounce back for the rest of the season after a disappointing end to the Italian Grand Prix. Days like this certainly are pretty frustrating, he said. Give it 24, 48 hours and I'll get over it and try to understand what's best for next year. Not in an overconfident or cocky way, but if it's not meant to be, then I'm totally okay with that. I'm not going to be too proud. We haven't certainly given up on getting a seat, but that's kind of where my head's at the moment. But to end things in a wholesome manner, 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton would give praise and support to Daniel on Thursday's press conference that he still believes that Daniel has the capability to fight for race wins and that he deserves to be in F1 next season. I think he should be racing. I think he's far too talented. He's earned the right to be amongst us all, racing. Of course, if he's a part of our team, it would be great. But I mean, the third driver role isn't really a thing. If I was managing him, he would be racing. And there you have it, guys. So, do you think Daniel still has what it takes to produce and be competitive in F1? Or should we start accepting that Daniel won't be in the sport next year is now a certainty? Let us know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.